My name is Joan Whitmore, and at 67, I never thought I'd be starting my life over. But that's the strange thing about family, you think you know your place in it, and then one day, you realize you've been quietly pushed to the edges. My health had taken a complicated turn last winter. A series of dizzy spells, a frightening fall, and a doctor who spoke in a tone too gentle to be comforting. My son, Darren, insisted I move in with him just until things settle. I didn't want to be a burden. But he wouldn't hear it. And truth be told, the loneliness in my little apartment had begun to feel heavier than my trembling hands, so I moved into Darren's home, a bright, spacious place with high ceilings and polished floors, very different from the life I'd built with my late husband, Mark. His wife, Vanessa, greeted me with a smile that seemed stretched too tight, like someone practicing warmth without truly feeling it. Still, I believed we would learn to fit around each other. Families adjust. That's what I told myself. The first days were gentle enough. Darren helped me unpack my suitcases while Vanessa arranged scented candles in the living room. I offered to cook, to fold laundry, to help with the kids, but Vanessa insisted I just rest, a phrase that eventually began to feel more like a boundary than a kindness. Over time, small things started disappearing: my knitting basket, a few of Mark's old books, a framed photograph from our honeymoon. When I asked, Vanessa cheerfully said she was decluttering to make space. I swallowed my discomfort, reminding myself that I was a guest in their home. The real blow came one quiet afternoon. I had asked Darren to bring down the box containing my wedding dress, something I had kept carefully preserved for decades. The dress was more than fabric, it was the last piece of the day Mark and I promised each other the world. But when I opened the box, my breath caught in my throat. It was empty. Vanessa, standing nearby with folded arms, said casually, "Oh, that old thing? It was stained and falling apart. I threw it out last week." The room spun. My chest tightened. I felt the kind of grief that doesn't make a sound because it's too deep for words. Darren looked uncomfortable but didn't defend me. That silence hurt worst of all. I thought I had already experienced the biggest losses of my life. I was wrong. Because what I discovered next, hidden in the back of a dusty drawer, would unravel every lie I'd been living under, and force me to question who I could trust. After the shock of losing my wedding dress, I spent the next few days moving quietly through Darren's house like a shadow. I kept telling myself not to make trouble, not to stir anything up, not to become the difficult mother-in-law. But grief has a way of settling in your bones, making everything feel heavier than it should. I tried to stay busy. I helped the grandkids with homework, swept the patio, folded laundry, but each task was met with either polite resistance or tightly veiled annoyance from Vanessa. If I touched anything in the kitchen, she would appear instantly, smiling too brightly as she said, "Oh Joan, don't worry about that. I've got it." The more she smiled, the more I felt pushed out of my own son's life. One afternoon, Darren asked me to look for an old insurance file in the storage room off the garage. The room was dim and dusty, stacked with boxes from years back. As I rummaged through piles of paperwork, I came across a thin wooden drawer wedged behind a toolbox. It didn't look like something Darren would keep. It was older, worn, almost antique. A curiosity more than anything. When I opened it, I didn't find insurance documents. I found a deed, a property deed, signed in Mark's handwriting. My heart jolted. The name on the deed was mine. And the property? A small cottage on the outskirts of the city. Fully paid. Passed to me before Mark died. My hands trembled as I unfolded the next sheet. A letter addressed to me. A letter I had never seen. Mark had written it shortly before his passing, but it had never reached me. My breath caught when I read the first line. "Joan, if anything happens to me, I want you to have a place that belongs only to you." He had been planning a safety net for me. A home. A sanctuary. But someone had hidden it. Someone who didn't want me to know. For a moment, the world blurred. Had Darren kept this from me? Had Vanessa taken it? Or had it gotten lost in the shuffle after the funeral? Just then, I heard footsteps. Heavy. Approaching. I quickly slid the letter into my cardigan pocket and placed the deed back where I found it. When Darren stepped into the doorway, his expression was unreadable, almost wary. "Find anything, Mom?" he asked. I shook my head, forcing a small smile. But inside, something cold and certain had settled in my chest. Someone had been lying. And it wasn't just about the dress, but the truth wouldn't fully reveal itself until I confronted the one person who had the most to lose, and the fallout would tear open every hidden fracture in our family. I barely slept that night. The letter in my pocket felt heavier than any secret I'd ever carried. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Mark's handwriting, heard his steady voice, remembered the way he used to say, "I'll always make sure you're taken care of, Joni." But here I was, unwanted, dismissed, and pushed aside in the one place I should have felt safe. The next morning, as sunlight filtered through the kitchen blinds, I found Vanessa humming at the counter, pouring herself a cup of tea. She didn't acknowledge me at first. She rarely did anymore. "Morning," I said softly. She glanced at me with that practiced, honeyed smile. "Good morning, Joan. Did you sleep well?" I hesitated. "I found something in the storage room yesterday." Her smile froze ever so slightly, but only someone paying close attention would have noticed. "Oh?" she said, setting her mug down. "A drawer. With old documents. Some of Mark's things." She tilted her head. Must have been lost in the clutter." There it was, that light, careless tone she used when she wanted to shut down a conversation without appearing rude. But I wasn't willing to shrink this time. "Did you ever see a deed in there? Or a letter?" She blinked slowly, her expression unreadable. "A deed? No. Why would I?" Her voice was calm, but her knuckles tightened around her mug. I watched her carefully. Something wasn't right. Before I could ask more, Darren came downstairs, half distracted and tying his tie. "Mom, you okay?" he asked as he grabbed a slice of toast from the counter. I opened my mouth, ready to tell him everything, to ask him why Mark's letter was hidden, why the deed was buried, why he never mentioned it to me. But Vanessa spoke before I could. "She's worried she misplaced something," she said smoothly, placing a hand on Darren's arm. "But I told her not to stress. She's been overwhelmed." A gentle lie, expertly delivered. Darren sighed, already stressed from work. "Mom, don't worry about whatever it is. I'm sure it's nothing." Just like that, dismissed. Again, and the terrible realization dawned on me. They saw me as a burden. Not as a mother. Not as family. Later that afternoon, while everyone was out, I went back to the storage room. If Mark left me a home, my home, then I needed to find out everything about it. I needed proof. A way out. Digging through old boxes, I uncovered more papers, tax notices, bank logins, documents with my name scratched off and updated with Darren's. Slowly, painfully, the picture came together. This wasn't neglect. This was control. The dress wasn't the first thing Vanessa threw away. It was just the first thing I caught. And what I found the next day, the one document they never expected me to see, would push me to make the most life-changing decision of my entire life. The next morning, I woke before anyone else. A strange calm settled over me, the kind that comes only when a decision, once impossible, becomes clear. I had spent weeks shrinking myself, tiptoeing around emotions that weren't mine to carry. But now? Now I knew better. Mark hadn't left me unprotected. Someone had simply made sure I didn't know. I returned to the storage room with a purpose. A quiet wind slipped under the garage door as I sifted through the remaining boxes. At the bottom of an old plastic container, beneath a stack of outdated receipts and broken Christmas ornaments, I found a thick, sealed envelope with my name written in bold letters. Not printed. Not typed. Handwritten. My pulse quickened as I tore it open. Inside was the official transfer document for the property Mark had given me, signed, notarized, and fully authenticated. There was also a certificate showing the cottage had no outstanding debts and had been placed solely under my name. No co-owners. No secondary claimants. No ties to Darren. No ties to Vanessa. It was entirely mine, and they had hidden it. My throat tightened, but for the first time in months, it wasn't sadness I felt, it was resolve. By the time Darren and Vanessa returned from running errands, I was sitting at the dining table with the documents neatly arranged in front of me. My hands were steady. My voice, even. "We need to talk," I said. Darren froze, sensing the weight in my tone. Vanessa's eyes flicked to the papers and she stiffened. "I found what Mark left me," I continued. "And I know you both hid it." Darren's face paled. "Mom, we were going to tell you. It just never felt like the right time." Vanessa stepped forward, her voice sharp. "We were trying to help you. You can't live on your own. You wouldn't last a week." I stood, pushing my chair back. "I survived losing my husband. I survived moving out of the home we built together. I survived being treated like a burden in my own son's house. Trust me, I'll be fine." For once, neither of them had anything to say. I packed that afternoon. Only essentials. A few clothes. My knitting bag, yes, the one she'd misplaced. And Mark's letter tucked deep in my purse, close to my heart. When I closed the door behind me, the air outside felt different, lighter, almost like it was welcoming me back. Within days, I arrived at the small cottage Mark had secretly left me. A quiet place surrounded by tall pines, sunlight spilling through the windows like a blessing. It wasn't grand, but it was mine. A place to breathe. A place to begin again. As I stood in the doorway, looking at the life waiting to be rebuilt, one truth echoed in my mind: sometimes you don't lose a family. Sometimes you finally see who they really are. Final rehook, strong ending for video. And when Darren realized what I had done, and what I had taken with me, he called nonstop for days. But by then, I had already chosen peace over pain. And there was no going back.